The demo for Unicorn Overlord just launched, and I've had a few hours to dig into it. This game is fascinating. Now, while I do love me a good SRPG, I have by no means played a majority of games in the genre, so it is possible that nothing UO does is super unique, and it just copies from another game wholesale. So if that is the case, then tell me in the comments. Otherwise, let's get to it. Now, I'm not going to spoil any plot in this video, and I'm sure that I'm going to get some details wrong or things might change between the demo and the full game, but I wanted to do a basic overview of all the mechanics I've seen so far to give people a better sense of what to expect when going into this game. First of all, Unicorn Overlord is a strategy RPG with a capital S. I personally hold the difference between strategy and tactics, such that strategy is about the bigger plays or overall plan, while tactics are the moment-to-moment decisions you make. Unicorn Overlord has both, but it really thrives in its larger strategy gameplay, far more so than something like Fire Emblem, which is basically all about tactics. Not saying one is superior to the other, just that they're different. In Unicorn Overlord, you put your units into squads and send them around the map to defeat enemies and capture objectives in a real-time with pauses format. Moving, resting, healing, all of this takes time, and each map is on a global timer to prevent a player from sitting on a fort and grinding reinforcements. Your units don't die when they get reduced to 0, but deploying squads takes valor, and if a squad gets eliminated on the field, you don't get that valor back. Each squad also has limited stamina, which is only regained by resting or garrisoning in certain locations, and resting units can't fight at all, which directly prevents having one squad solo an entire map. You need to have multiple squads out and about taking objectives to beat the map before time runs out. At the start, you're limited to 3 squads of 2 units each, but you can expand the size and number of squads you control by spending renown gained by completing mission objectives and side quests. Combat is handled by programming moves for each of your units ahead of time, running your squad into an enemy on the map, and then a round of JRPG-style combat between both squads plays out, with an action order determined by each unit's initiative stat. Every unit has a certain number of active points and passive points that they use on their programmed moves. Active points are used to do things like attack or heal proactively, while passive points are used in response to an action, guarding when the enemy attacks you, healing or getting a bonus attack at the end of combat, that sort of thing. After all units have used up their points, combat ends. Units will be knocked away from each other, and whatever non-garrisoned squad loses more HP by the end of combat gets temporarily stunned on the map. Attacking a stunned unit gives the attacker first strike, letting all of their units go first regardless of initiative. As for these programmed actions, this is one aspect in which the depth of the game truly lies. You can set your actions in a priority list with particular triggers. Want to heal if you're under half HP but attack if you aren't? You can do that. Want to focus on hitting the weakest enemy instead of blindly hitting whoever's in the front? You can do that. Want to only use AoE attacks if you can hit multiple targets? You can do that too. While each individual combat is not directly controlled move by the player, the tactic system does allow for a broad level of control that you can set up and forget about. Between combat maps, you're brought to an intermission phase where you can gear up, upgrade your squads to contain more units, fulfill side quests and objectives for more rewards, and so on. I can imagine this getting pretty detailed and time-consuming as the game goes on. Only time will tell if this is seen as an interesting strategic management sim portion of the game, or if its appeal wears thin over time like the Monastery and 3 Houses. This is about all I've been able to see from the demo, and I haven't even fully finished it yet. I'm always a bit wary when giving recommendations to others or when picking up games myself, but for any game I choose to play, I do try to go in with cautious optimism. That said, if you want to hear my biggest complaint with the demo, here it is. Now this may seem very minor, but it's one of my biggest pet peeves in pretty much any game it shows up in. You start the game in what's basically a playable cutscene, with a very powerful squad, with no instructions on what to do or how anything works outside of move your army towards the enemy. And you just get to sit and watch as you move through enemies and defeat them effortlessly, with some pretty complicated moves going on. I really dislike this way of opening a game. It shows the complexity of the systems in the worst ways possible to a player who's never even learned the basics, in a way where the game just plays itself. I almost thought this was an intended start point because this is what bad cash grab mobile games do at the start. Only instead of a prologue that cuts away to actual level 1 gameplay like Unicorn Overlord has, a bad mobile game would have just shoved you forward without being ever able to lose until you hit a paywall. Either way, it is a bad first impression that adds nothing to the game, and I fundamentally disagree with this design choice every single time I see it. But that complaint aside, I've had a lot of fun with the Unicorn Overlord demo, and I am genuinely excited for the full game to release so I can sink myself deep into this tactic system and make myself feel at home. I hope this video helped you out by letting you know the type of game that you might be getting yourself into before you make the purchase. If you think it might be interesting, I highly recommend picking up the demo and trying it out for yourself. But until next time, this is Mithril Zenith, signing out.